Welcome to your Daily Dose of Sunday School, episode 118. We are on chapter 8 of R.C. Sproul's Reason to Believe, entitled, If There is a God, Why Is There So Much Evil in the World? Now, there is a lot of evil in the world, and you have the problem of evil is formulated something like this. So the Christian or the theist, the Christian says that God is all-powerful, omnipotent, that he is perfectly loving, and that he is omniscient. And the claim that's made in the problem of evil is that the character of God cannot exist in a world full of evil. So if God is all-powerful and he's perfectly loving, then he's able to stop evil, and he's aware, he's able to stop evil. He would want to stop evil because he sees how much suffering it causes, therefore he must not be omniscient. Or you could say, God knows about this evil, and obviously he wants to help, but he must not be powerful enough to help. Or you could say, if God's all-powerful and he knows about evil, he must not care that much to stop it. Now, there's a lot of human pride in this whole formulation as far as thinking that we know things that we don't know. But one has to admit that there's a lot of evil in the world, and there's a lot of weight to this argument. So what we're going to look at, what R.C. Sproul looks at for the first half of the chapter, are different theodicies. A theodicy is an attempt to justify God. That's what the word means. And it's attempting to explain it's attempting to defend God against this charge that, that he cannot exist, or he cannot be perfectly good, or whatever, and in a world that has as much evil as we have. So, how can God be God in a world full of evil? So some people will say that, the evil is ultimately good. And we can't go there. So remember what Romans 8:28 says. We know that all things work together for the good for those who love God, those who are called according to his purpose. So there is real evil, so we can't say that it's not really evil. God uses it for good, but you still are left with saying, why this evil in the first place? There's another theodicy that blames Satan, blames all the evil on Satan, which, Satan's a creature, so that's not a sufficient defense. That's like blaming all the evil on Hitler. That's still, how did God allow this creature to do so much damage? So it doesn't really work. Satan is not another God. He is he's a powerful creature. So that doesn't answer the question. Another theodicy is that we have to have evil to fully appreciate good. Now, I was kind of surprised because this kind of reminded me of Romans 9, and yet R.C. Sproul rejects it, so I was like, I need to be careful here. I would say there's some truth to it, but I think ultimately it doesn't answer this question. Remember what Romans 9:22 through 24 says, and what if God, desiring to display his wrath and to make his power known, endure with much patience objects of wrath ready for destruction? And what if he did this to make known the riches of his glory on objects of mercy that he prepared beforehand for glory? On us the ones he also called, not only from the Jews but also from the Gentiles. So, that seems to indicate there's something to it, but doesn't resolve this for us ultimately? Maybe it's all relative. Well, I don't think we can define evil out of existence. So saying it's all relative, you're saying it's just our perception of it, and maybe we dislike one thing versus another. But there is ultimate evil, and again, we want to be biblical about this, and I think the Bible is very honest about the evil in the heart of man. Not just natural evils, what we'd call natural disasters, which I think are a little easier to deal with than some of the moral evil that's perpetrated. A theologian named Leibniz, I don't remember how that's pronounced, says that his theodicy was that evil basically flows naturally out of our limitation as creatures. And that's a huge problem because, we want to be biblical, and we know that God actually can perfect his creatures. Also, it seems to deny the reality of evil as well. If it's just a part of being a creature, that evil, moral, physical, kind of natural, all those types of evils just kind of flow from the fact that we're creatures, and that God couldn't possibly make limited creatures without that flaw. That seems to then say that, what is sin then if it just flows from us being creatures? That wouldn't make any sense. So none of those solutions are good. Let's see if we can find a better one.